Welcome to Licensed Psychologist Now What? A podcast about the journey psychologists and psychotherapists go through as they reclaim their intuition and unleash their healing gifts while maneuvering, getting licensed, life, and making a living. And although this podcast host and many of the guests are mental health professionals, the information provided is not meant to be a substitute for being diagnosed and treated by a licensed mental health, medical, and related professionals, or for supervision and/or consultation purposes. Hello, everyone. I am so happy to be here with you for another episode of Licensed Psychologist Now What? This is your host, Dr. Lidiana, and today I have the honor and privilege to introduce to you all and speak, because I also get so much from these conversations, with Diana Lleras, a licensed professional counselor in Georgia. And we were sharing before hitting record about some of the work that she does, and it's so amazing. So if you can introduce to us, please, Diana, let us know about you, your services, and what do you love the most about it?
Okay, thank you, Liliana, for having me, and I'm very honored to be here today. So my name is Diana Lleras. I live in Atlanta, Georgia, and I am a licensed professional counselor. I have a master's in mental health counseling from here in Georgia at Mercer University. So what I like the most about what I do and the services that I offer different types of modalities for trauma healing. So I am trained in EMDR, IFS, a little bit of nature therapy. I'm trying to get into, somatic therapy. And what I'm trying to do is that I want to fill in the gap for, what's missing in our community. And because our community has gone through and is still going through so much trauma, I want to be the best equipped I can to, help the Latina community here in Georgia. And I offer mainly individual counseling services here, through telehealth or through in person. And my goal or my dream is to create, a group or something where we can all heal in community.
So important, so important. And Diana was sharing about the work that she's been doing with immigrants in the border, and which border would be. Now I'm like curious. Can you share a little bit more about that?
So I'm working contracted through Seneca Family, which is organization that is helping the families that have been separated at the border. So a lot of these families, I'm not working at the border, but some of these families have migrated here to Georgia, and I am the person that usually is helping them out. There's a lot of people coming our way from different places. So originally I started at a community service board where we help mainly the Latina community, and I got, well acquainted with the needs in the community and with how oppressive this state is. So in Georgia, they're very racist and oppressive. So, you need to have a social security to get a license, a driver's license. And, if you don't have it, then you get arrested and then they'll call ICE. So, just helping people navigate all those things. So
Mm.
that's where I realized that I really needed to focus more on the trauma and how abusive the system is and how it, abuses its power to take advantage of people. So same with, these children that have been separated from their parents, at the border, I'm working mainly with their kids. And at the same time, the referral comes for the whole family. So,
Such an important work in this time and age. Yeah. Recently I finished a book about the Dust Bowl and how, many from the Central Plains became refugees in California, and how horrible Californians treated them. And I can, we're still confronting all these difficulties. And you were sharing also how they share about what they miss the most. Can you share a little bit about
Mhm.
that?
Yeah, so most of the time when I talk to the children that, have been held, they talk about how they miss home and they miss nature. They have a very close relationship with nature that maybe here they might not feel as close one because, the vegetation is a little different. They're a little lost. There might not be as much nature available to them. So in our work together, what we try to do is that we try to make friends with the nature that they may have available
Mm.
here in the US, either, through, looking out the window and just describing what they see and, making, connections. Or if we're doing telehealth, looking out my window and just like making connections and, connecting with nature in different ways that might help them feel a little bit more grounded. Like it might help people feel a little bit more, yeah, more grounded and at a higher window of tolerance when the stressful situations come.
Mm. And how's been your journey with nature? Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I came originally from Bogota, Colombia, so we didn't have that much access to nature. And, during the weekends with my family, we would always, go have a picnic or go hiking or anything like that. So when I moved here, I had a similar experience where you feel kind of, trapped because you don't really know what's around you. And we still, we go walking and wonder at, the different animals that were here compared to back home and just kind of create different relationships with nature. So we've always had pets. So I've always found it very healing and helpful. So that's why I think that I was called to, learn more about nature therapy and how to incorporate that in, in my practice and in helping that as a resource to kind of help people find healing through their connections with nature.
Hmm. I love that. And I know right now, especially during the pandemic and the limitation of so many people like staying put and staying home. And I remember when the whole thing started, I was living in an apartment and I was like, we need a bigger place ASAP that we can have, even if it's a small, like I have like a little small backyard with green and something. But
Mm-hmm.
and I can only imagine the folks that live, like I was thinking Manhattan and New York and Bronx and Queens and people that live in high risings and don't have
Mm-hmm.
access to much green and it was so dangerous to go outside. But there was this like, I know we're talking about the great, I think it's like people that don't want to go back to work. There's a term for that right now. I can't seem to access it. But there's been also like a huge migration of people moving out of main cities to more rural areas of the US. And I wonder, like, soon we're going to talk more about that. But the part of it was that need of connecting with nature, and it's been like a buzzword. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering, what is that nature healing? Because I know you have some trainings and stuff. Like, what is that? Like,
So, nature therapy focuses mainly on how nature can help you heal. They use it mainly for teenagers, at risk youth. They do, usually what they'll do is that they'll go camping, they'll go on these different quests, and that should, with the hopes that that will help, teens heal and feel better. So, what nature does for your nervous system, we're wired to feel calmer when we're in nature. So nature actually helps us ground ourselves. Mother Nature does. So when you're out, let's say in the forest, when you're in your garden, when you're watering your plants, the smells, the sensations, the views of having that connection with Mother Nature, or playing with a pet, we're wired to feel calmer by those. And also the nutrients in the soil, or the chemicals that you release when you're taking care of a plant, of a pet, usually will help you tolerate stress a little bit better, because you might release some oxytocin, you might inhale some minerals, some nutrients that would, if you're depressed, they might help you fight depression, they might help you feel a little bit better, they might make your immune system better too. So, and engaging with your five senses, like being very mindful, paying attention to the colors that you see, like just being very present in what you're doing in the moment when you're engaging with the natural environment or the natural world can help you feel a little bit better. And that's why people usually that might live in a rural area experience a lot less stress than people who might live in a crowded city, like New York City, or I don't know, LA,
LA.
Bogota. Um,
Yeah.
so what might happen is that when we don't have, number one, you don't have access to as much oxygen because trees create oxygen, plants create oxygen, they reduce CO2. So that affects your body, your physical health, and your physical health might also affect your mental health, and vice versa, because everything is connected. And I know in a lot of different cultures there's a spiritual aspect to it too, right? Like the animals, the trees, they might not just be trees and animals, they might be our siblings, right? Like they might be our parientes, right? Like they might be
Mhm.
related to us. And or if if since you have a backyard, like if you
Mhm.
sit out there and you start observing, you might notice, oh, there's a bird that comes every morning, or there's a family of squirrels that lives here. You know what I mean? So being in community with nature kind it opens us up more, and it helps us live healthier a healthier lifestyle. And usually in research, if you're trying to go more by the Western
Mhm.
medicine, they have discovered that people who are in hospitals, those who have a window in their bedroom, seem to heal faster than those who don't. So, that's how
Mhm.
Western medicine claims they found the healing aspect of nature, and I'm sure there's more to it than just that.
Right. Yeah, it has to
hmm
become evidence-based
Right.
for it to be true. Yeah,
Yeah.
something else that they're yeah. Anyways, we can go on a tangent. Clearly, we have opinions on it. I'm like, wow, I went on a trip on my mind. I'm like, I was not even thinking of that, of the nutrients that you're inhaling with plants or nature and what you release. Like, wow, I was here like thinking, I wonder, I don't know if that exists. And I don't know if you don't, if you know, but it's just a curiosity that maybe some of my listeners or some of the listeners, not my listeners, have. Is there like a list of plants that are like, these are the best plants when you're going through depression or sadness or for inside, like in terms of the micronutrients? I don't know. Like I was like,
So not necessarily like just so planting,
mm,
planting a plant. So like if you do own plants or you're feeling kind of down, see which plants might need repotting. That might help you feel a little bit better. It might help them feel a little bit better. The smell of the soil is what might help us feel better. So that's why if you do have access to a forest or a park, the smell of the ground, those
mm,
that smell, like you're inhaling those nutrients from the soil, from the
mhm.
earth, and those nutrients, are made to help you feel a little bit better, help your immune system get a little bit better, because there's microbes in there, there's microbials, but
Yeah,
like they're
yeah,
they're not harmful,
yeah.
and they're for us to kind of feel more connected to everything. So
Mhm.
yeah, so
So
no, there's not
interesting.
necessarily a specific plan. If you're depressed, you might want to do, like a more low maintenance plan, and like sometimes repotting it. You know, I would suggest repotting without gloves, but if like if that's not something that you want to do, you can definitely
Mhm.
use the gloves, because like what you want to do is like have the sensations of like
Mhm.
feeling the dirt on your hands, or smelling it, or absorbing the nutrients through your hands. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
that's usually what can be helpful, in helping
Yeah.
you feel a little bit better.
Oof, and then this is bringing like the dirt, the soil,
Yeah,
which we many times we're like dirt, but the soil, it just carries so much.
yeah, yeah.
And we keep forgetting that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's what holds us up, right? The ground, the soil, the earth. So again, if you're someone that's been through trauma, that experiences, flashbacks, or that experiences a lot of anxiety, just laying down on the floor and literally feeling Mother Earth holding you, right? So it can be,
Mm.
like you can lay down if you want, on the dirt, or on the grass, or on your carpet, but just kind of feeling earth holding you. That can be really grounding too, and really helpful.
Hmm.
hmm
Oof, so many ideas. Thank you. I'm like here, like even when you were saying like what holds you is like, yeah, there's different types of soil. There's the la tierra como dura y seca. There's the one that is a little bit more humid. There's all these things and all these
Yeah.
metaphors that we can use for our lives about what we need, what kind of holding do we need. So, and
Hmm.
when you were talking, I was here visualizing just like a retreat outside and just laying down and feeling the ground and asking so many questions. So, anyways, thank you for that visuals and inspiration.
Yeah.
And you mentioned you come from Bogota. So, were you over there like little, or do you get here older?
I was there until I was 14, about to be
Okay.
15, and then we migrated here to Georgia. So, and I was very fortunate and privileged, like we were able to migrate, through like a job visa and have good,
Mhm.
support from our family. So, yeah.
Yeah, because I was wondering, because I know you mentioned like in the cities, you're like in Bogota, in terms of like, were you able to have access to nature back home or when you go visit, if you do?
Yes, so the difference, and I'm wondering, if this has been the experience for some of my younger, clients. Over there, for example, school is what we call campestre, so it's open. Like when you step out of your classroom, you're outside. You're not in a building
Mhm.
all day.
Yeah.
So we did have, access to nature that way. So when, I transitioned here and there's no, grass at the school or where
Mhm.
you can just sit down and play, or you don't really go outside, but the lunch hour, it was
Mhm.
like a difficult transition for me. So yeah, so I
Yeah.
think just in our culture, that's included. My mom has always had plants, and she used to talk to them. I never understood why, but now I do that. I have my own plants. You know what I mean? So I was always exposed to, taking care of nature, don't litter, don't, do these things, don't waste food, like just that respect for the natural
Mm.
world that maybe here in the US the culture is a little bit different. It's like that's there, but then we're here. Like we're not. There's not really
Mm.
a connection per se.
Oh, and not having that connection, it's it's so sad because it's like this idea that nature is its own different thing and it doesn't impact us or we don't impact, and it's like
Right.
we're an ecosystem.
Yes.
Nature impacts us, we impact nature. So yeah, so important. And what are some of the practices that you do to connect, even when you don't have, like, let's say, like you're a huge backyard? I don't know how your living situation, but you mentioned you have indoor plants. But what are the things that have helped you the most? Simple, but that have been helping you.
Mm, so when I don't have access, to my plants or my backyard, or well, I don't my balcony. I don't have a backyard, but or my pets, what I do is when I'm driving or whenever I'm somewhere, like I try to find, like, are there trees here? Or when I'm driving and I'm stuck in traffic, stressed out, I might look at the trees, like on the side of the highway, or when there's a change in seasons, I take advantage of the smells. If you do have trees around you, just notice if the smell changes with each season, or how the trees might change, the foliage might change, or sometimes you can even use imagery, like if you have a place that you hold close to your heart. A lot of people use the beach, other people use the forest, or you know a plant that you might have had back home, or a pet, like a loving pet, whether they're living or in spirit. Just using that imagery and just kind of remember what it felt like to be there. So
Mm,
sometimes, even if you don't have that access to nature, well, green nature per se, you can find other ways, right? So rain is part of nature, just sitting out there and just letting
mhm,
rain, just feel the rain on you. I do that one a lot when I'm stressed out and it's raining.
mm,
I let the rain ground
mhm,
me. You can
mhm,
feel the sunshine on your skin. That's also really helpful for depression. That's why during the winter, most of us might feel a little bit
mhm,
down because there's less sunlight. But or noticing the moon, like what phase of the moon are we in? If you can see the stars, notice if you can notice the stars, or notice if you see any type of
Mm.
animal life around you, whether it's an animal life that you enjoy or not, like pigeons or
Mhm, mhm.
squirrels, or that more urban life, a mouse.
Mm.
Even
Yeah.
with a spider, you can, like even with a bug, right? Like you could just observe it and just experience the environment that you're in through their eyes. Or if you have a pet, like just look at your cat. What are they doing? So sometimes those things, just finding either imagining a place that you hold dear to your heart, or of the things that we have with us, because nature is around us always, right? The wind, the
Mhm.
stars, the moon, a candle, looking at the fire of the candle, looking at the
Mhm.
flames just dancing. All those things can always, like that can be a connection in itself. And if you wanted to feel more connected, it might help sometimes to ask yourself, what would it feel like to be the moon? What would it feel like to be this
Mm.
candle? Or let me, take deep breaths as I watch, the flame dance around. Or, let me sit out
Mm.
here and feel the rain for a little bit. Or if I can't, let me just watch the rain hit the window and just imagine what it would feel like to stand under that, or focus on the sound of the rain. So even if we might not have access to a forest or plants, remember that nature, because we do live in Mother Earth, like we are surrounded by Mother Nature. Nature is all around us always. It's in the air that we breathe,
Yes.
right? In the energy that it gives us to survive.
Mm. This is so beautiful. Thank you for sharing because it's many folks, including myself, for the longest. I remember being like, oh, I need to go hiking, especially, I live in California. It's like hiking, 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 or the beach. But
Mm-hmm.
time or family. And lately, I've just been connected with, I mean, you reframe like there's nature always, but like what I would consider with the little nature that I have nearby, which is like the little trees and the little community that I live, and that's been so amazing. I feel like, and then
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking the other day, maybe it's because I was never observing, but I feel like the place that I live right now, even though there's concrete and wood and, buildings, there's so many birds. I've never been so aware of so many birds in my life, or
Mm-hmm.
bees, or hummingbird and dragonflies. And sometimes I'm like, wow, this feels like a special place to just observe those their interaction and the trees
Mm-hmm.
and the flowers, even if it's little. That practice for me has been, which is I started more for mindfulness skills, but it has
Mm-hmm.
become this love for nature. And when I say that I started as a mindfulness skill, it was because I was training to do a bike ride, like a race, and I was riding the bike and I would be like, okay, what's the most tallest tree or whatever, to kind of keep myself out of the, oh my God, I'm gonna die, I cannot do this anymore. But
Uh-huh.
now, like, I'm driving and it just, and I love sharing that with my oldest. Like this morning as we were driving, it's raining in LA and it usually never rains, to the point that he was like, wait, it's flooding, and I'm like, yeah, it's a little bit. But he was like, but there's no hurricane here. And it was like, okay, explaining all that. But when it rains, there's something about the flowers that you see them in a different color. It's so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And there were this flower underneath. We were like next to the airport, underneath like un puente, a bridge. Right now, I'm like thinking in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
And there were these beautiful flowers, like all different colors. And I stopped and I'm like, oh my God, look at the flowers. And he stopped whatever he was saying. He's like, oh, mom, they're really pretty. And I'm like, and then it was like, oh, I love sharing this little practice because it's always around us. And if we pay attention, which is like back to what you were sharing,
Mm-hmm.
the mindfulness, when we pay attention with the senses that we have, we can sense it and we can
Mm-hmm.
remember that
Mm-hmm.
we're connected, that we're
Mm-hmm.
one ecosystem, and to take care, because when you start doing that, it also increases that aspect of that connection of, I don't want to hurt you.
Right. So a big part of nature therapy is that, like, consent. So before
Yeah.
you touch a tree, before you pick up a rock or anything, you ask for consent to the tree. Like,
Mm.
is it okay to touch you? Is it okay to, and if you can, you try not to take anything with you. You just leave things where they are.
Mm-hmm.
As part of, that respect for the environment.
Mm-hmm. That is,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. That in itself, I'm like, that is, just taking anything that you see is, it could be see like a colonizer kind of behavior, it's like, I like this, let
Mm-hmm.
me take it. Yeah. And with the clients that you work, helping them reconnect with this quote unquote new nature, new world that might feel even dangerous. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I was not aware that in Georgia you cannot, to have a driver's license, you need your social security. That sounds, over
Yeah.
here that would be like the real ID, but you can have a driver's license without the
Mm-hmm.
social. And I'm just here thinking like, wow, like how horrible,
Mm-hmm.
and that they call ICE. So it's like they move probably, as a refugee, basically. They escaped something and they came here, and then they're like, things outside might feel dangerous as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
staying inside the apartment or the place that they're living. So,
Mm-hmm.
how is that journey of helping them reconnect with a different kind of world and opening them to this opportunity that it's not dangerous, that is a new connection?
Mm-hmm.
How's that been?
Yeah. So what I try to do, because these are kids at the end of the day, I don't want them, wandering
Right.
around in the forest by themselves.
Yeah.
So if we can meet in person, we will go together, So in therapy, I don't know if you're familiar with walk and talk therapy. So we'll
Mm-hmm.
walk around, look at stuff, pay attention, to the different things going on around us, or, you know, just talk about whatever is coming up and allow the person to engage with the natural world as they might need in the moment, So
Mm-hmm.
there's no, there's only what is, if you might feel need to touch something to ground yourself, we allow it. And when it's virtual, because that's different, we do it
Mm-hmm.
through a safe lens, right? So it can be just looking out the window or just crossing the threshold of the door, right? The front door or the back door, and just standing just right outside, or just like looking out the door or opening the window, you know what I mean? And then
Mm-hmm.
just offering the invitation, if the family would feel safe and they would want to engage in, hiking or sitting outside, that's always there. And if not, it's okay. So basically, it's up to each person what they feel
Mm-hmm.
comfortable with. So if you're someone that doesn't feel comfortable with walking out in the forest, you don't have to. Like you can just look at the windows, stare at the tree.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want to open the window, you don't have to. Just still just look through the window. So it just depends on the person, and you want to make it as safe as possible. So each person would have control of their own experience, and I'm just there to either guide or help out, but I'm not the authority per se. Like there's no right way to do it. Whatever way feels
Mm-hmm.
good for you, that's the right way to do it.
Which in a way is very respectful to them as well.
Of course.
And it's showing like this very gentle. And was that part of your schooling, the
No,
nature therapy?
it
No.
wasn't.
Okay. How do you bump into it?
So when I don't know, I just wanted to look into it because I noticed that it helps me a lot. I seek out nature a lot, and I just see you know, how grounding it is, or how well I slept, for example, when it rains, like I sleep really well. So, like I was always, just kind of drawn to it. And I wanted to find ways to help people connect with nature as a resource to help you feel better. So that's one. And then
Mm.
two, through my study of trauma, right? So in the polyvagal theory, I don't know if
Mhm.
you're familiar with it, right? So we have the three, stages of responses to our environment, right? So the window of tolerance is where we can still feel the emotions and not be flooded by them or frozen by them.
Mhm.
So usually one of the things that was recommended by Deb Dana, who is the person that kind of adapted that in the therapy world, was to connect with nature. So I kind of validated already what I felt. And then another thing that I was interested in is in, really going out there with my clients based on what they like to do. So a lot of my clients already like going hiking. They already enjoy nature. Thankfully, Georgia is very green. So we do have access to a lot of different, there's like to trees and,
Mm-hmm.
Different animals and, so that thankfully is available to us. So that's how I kind of started looking more into it. And the more I learned about how you can build this relationship with the space around you and how healing it can be.
Mm. And was that before? Because I know right now a lot of people do the walk and talk. Was that before that kind of got popularity, or like were you like starting even before, or I don't know?
Yeah, so when I was in the community service board or the my job where I first started as a therapist,
Mm-hmm.
with my teenagers we'll go out and talk and walk around, and so that's grounding, and walking itself helps you process things a little bit
Mm-hmm.
easier. So that's kind of like you're doing EMDR
Yeah.
without needing to do EMDRs. So that, that was also, helpful. So sometimes we'll be walking and it's the same thing. Usually I'll meet the person in a park that they already feel comfortable in, and they lead the way and I just walk with them. And usually if you're talking about something and you're processing it and you're making connections, usually people will start walking faster because that means they're processing.
Mm.
And then when they need to, stop and just kind of think that, like, and I'm just there, I'm just there with them for support and to help them I'm there as another resource. But
Mm.
most of the things, with nature, with healing, people are doing their own work. And that's, what is so amazing to me, how resilient people can be.
That is
Mm.
so beautiful. Yeah. The reason I was bringing that aspect, were you doing that before, was more because I wonder if there was any resistance by your agency or supervisors or other people. No?
No, thankfully, no, because the agency that I worked at, it was actually one of the only agency that served the Latino community here in
Mm.
Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
So all of us were Latinos. So,
Mm-hmm.
that was just a thing that it was okay, like it was okay to do. And if the kids wanted to go out and walk around, like we were allowed to. Of course, we're not living super far. We're just walking
Mm-hmm.
around the clinic, around, the parking lot, just going in circles.
Mm-hmm.
But no, that was welcome. Was, like just as part of, like, I guess that cultural awareness, but because we're all in a way kind of
Yeah.
connected,
But that
in
was
our
good
values.
because,
Yeah.
yeah, there's still a lot of agencies that serve the Latina community that are not
Right. And it
that.
also depends,
Yeah.
right? Like it depends on the person.
Yeah.
Some people didn't feel comfortable with it, some of us did, so.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. And it sounds like it was like it did not happen all together. It was like slow steps that you were like taking with it, and you were progressing into like, I want to do this more, or and then taking the
Hmm.
training and all that. So I wonder if you have
Hmm.
a like, what would be a message that you can tell any other person that's listening that is like, I would like to start that journey of integrating
Hmm.
more nature, either for their lives or with their clients. What would you recommend?
Hmm. So for people that might want to have more connection with nature in their lives, I would recommend, just like you said, just observing, just noticing the miracles of nature, rain, the moon, the sky, the clouds, just oxygen in general, the
Mhm.
fact that we can breathe, and, connecting through what is available to you and what you feel comfortable with, of course, so that's why I said, if you feel comfortable grabbing dirt with your bare hands, great. If not, that's okay. There's not wrong or right way to do it. And then also always know that we are in nature, right? Like nature is always around us. It doesn't have to be green nature or,
Right.
yeah, or, a river or, like it can be as much as, the water that you have in the sink,
Yeah.
And for the counselors that might want to add this as, like in their toolbox, you can you don't have to go outside if you don't want to. You can have nature within your office. You can have a plant, or you can have a box full of different things that might be helpful. So some counselors might have feathers or dry plants, or you can do it through like a candle that smells like something. And if you do want to do it outside, there are some safety things that you need to be aware of. So
Yes.
for that, I would recommend either seeking some consultation or taking a class, with the caveat that what they might teach you that is evidence-based
Right, right, right,
might not
right.
be the whole truth, right? And at the same time,
Yeah.
some of the things, like of every training, just take what is helpful and what is not. You can, let go
Yep.
of it.
Especially when working with a community that was not used when they were creating the evidence base
Exactly.
or
Mm-hmm.
testing it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, thank you, Diana. This is bringing me like so many ahas in terms of like different ways and smaller ways that I can connect. And it's such a special day to do this interview because it was raining a lot and we don't get that over here that much. And yeah, even the wind, and it reminded me a little bit of Puerto Rico. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so that was really special. So we can continue talking about nature because it's something that I also enjoy. But we're getting at the end of the episode. So I like doing this fire round questions or end the sentence. So basically, just finish the sentence. The first one is my unique and special gift is.
I would like to say compassion. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
am reclaiming.
I am reclaiming letting go of doing things by the book. Like I am
Yeah.
reclaiming kind of doing what works.
Yeah. I no longer subscribe to.
Same, following certain protocols or having to do things a certain way, the way that we've been taught, because sometimes that might be oppressive too.
Mhm. If my ancestors would speak, they would say.
They would say that rest is important, and that this connection and love, it's healing.
Mm. And my wish for you, meaning the audience, is.
That you are able to find love and the love and connection that you seek, and that you're able to find the connection with nature that your heart might be looking for.
Mm. Thank you so much for this. Where can the audience find you, or maybe someone that might be like, I would like to have Diana as my, to consult her.
You can find me through the Latinx therapy directory. You just look me up there and you'll find my contact information. Or you can also find me on Instagram at consejeria underscore caring and healing. And sometimes, I might post some videos there, for grounding.
And all of that are here in the show notes. So you can click over there and go directly either to the directory or to the Instagram page. Thank you so much for your courage. I was trying to find like bravery, but then it's courage to follow your calling,
Thank you.
because that's by you doing so, you're providing that medicina, your medicina in a very special way, and also inspiring others to reconnect to themselves. And thank you for doing that.
Thank you. And thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you so much. And everybody, you can get all the information down here in the show notes, and we'll talk next time. Bye. Thanks for listening. Licensed Psychologist Now What? To make sure you don't miss any episode, make sure to subscribe via your favorite podcast player and to join our email list via our website. Lastly, I will appreciate if you would rate and review our podcast to help us reach more folks that can benefit from the information provided here. Until next time, bye-bye.